but every action has the potential to spark a global transformation. For these Gen Z activists, the goal is to reach every corner of the planet in hopes of saving it.
Indigenous people have been saying this for decades and centuries. The difference is that now people are listening to my generation.
We know that we have to take action today if we want a world and a future that we can be proud of.
They're sprinting into action.
For every goal I score, I plant 11 trees to represent each of the players that are in the pitch.
And bringing their innovations to life.
We can pick up the mixture using magnets and like that collect up plastics.
Water is the lifeblood of Mother Earth. It's the lifeblood of everything.
From the deserts in Africa to the Amazon rainforest or the glaciers of the Arctic and the beaches of Southeast Asia, we meet the next generation of environmentalists whose voices are leading the charge when it comes to going green.
This is going to be an interesting program, especially for those that haven't looked at the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So help all of us God. I didn't realize until watching this program, I've already watched some of it, not all of it, but how that plastic has inundated our lives in the past 50 years. And how that this material now, that some scientists and doctors are leaning towards plastic being the contributive factor in our bodies that's causing cancer. I always thought that it was the radiation, or maybe it was the sprays that they was putting on the plants for farmers to control the weeds and the bugs. But I'm believing now more and more of these new findings pertaining to what we're actually doing, because if it'll kill fish, if it will disturb other sea life in the oceans and the seas, don't you think it also have an effect on the human race too as well? This program is going to be very, very interesting pertaining to the climate deniers, those that are still in denial about what we're doing to our planet. We hope and pray that you get some sort of a message out of all of this whenever you watch it, providing that you do watch it. Just take the initiative towards understanding and doing something for yourself towards how that we can prevent either greenhouse gases or plastics or any of the above, planting trees or any of the above that this program is fixing to weigh in on.
Being by the seashore, I saw a lot of plastic pollution, and as a result, I wanted to do something about it. Every week, we consume over 5 grams of plastic. The solution is that we stop producing microplastics in the first place. I've just found a mere way to try and remove these from the environment, such that we have less of them entering our food system and entering the environment in the first place. My name is Pian Pareda. I am 21 years old, and I am a student of chemistry at the University of Groningen in the Netherlands.
As a kid, gathering large plastic waste in his kayak was a no-brainer. Now, this young climate activist is going deeper to remove the plastic you can see.
I started by building a device to be able to measure plastics in water.
The United Nations Environmental Program estimates more than 400 million tons of plastic are produced globally every year. And according to a report published in the Environmental Research Journal, there are approximately between 15 to 51 trillion particles of microplastics floating in the ocean today.
I think a quote that has really driven me a lot was actually one from Thomas Edison. It's, to invent, you need a good imagination and a pile of junk. And I think that that is something that I really, really work by.
In 2019, Fion designed an unconventional way.
And basically our planet is turning into a big pile of junk. And because of it, we're seeing Mother Nature act out in the degree sort of like a child throwing a tantrum. And while she's throwing these tantrum tantrums, it's causing major destruction on the planet that's affecting not only animal life but also our lives too as well.
These particles, an idea that won the Google Science Fair the same year.
My method is based on a ferromagnetic mixture. And this ferromagnetic mixture was something I was playing with as a child. Ferrofluids were a fun kind of science guide that I could play with and engage with. Is very similar to a laboratory extraction that we do. So where we extract, for instance, different polarity solvents from each other. Also, this method has magnetic particles added to it, so we can pick up the nonpolar mixture once it's absorbed or taken in some of the plastics with magnets, and then by applying a really strong magnetic pulse, we can actually get it to expel the plastic particles again, ultimately letting this liquid to be regenerated and reused for further cycles. I think that this method can be scaled such that we could bring this in drinking water and wastewater treatment plants around the world.
This passion project has now taken him from the inside of a lab to the Arctic Circle.
Hello Utopians, this is Fionn here from the Arctic on my third day in Longyearbyen.
He also received a financial boost to jumpstart a pilot program for his invention at a wastewater facility in Ohio from actor Robert Downey Jr.'s foundation, the Footprint Coalition. For Fionn, his work is just one part of a global outcry from young activists pushing to end the proliferation of plastics.
Now, more than ever, young people are in a place of power. We're seeing places like the World Economic Forum, where I contribute, bringing in young changemakers to have their perspectives on the global agenda. It is my hope that more youth aspire to invent.
Up next, a green initiative is growing around the pitch.
If life were like web design,
Madhumnes, it's not clear. Even if we appear with the burqa, maybe they will say that women's voices are forbidden.
Did you ever imagine that you would be prevented from going to school?
Girls' education is fundamental to the dignity of Afghan life.
Do you believe that young girls will be allowed to go to school in Afghanistan?
Football is a universal game, and the climate change is a universal problem. Sports, and football in specific, has a power to inspire, to change, to connect the young people to create a greener environment. My name is Lesem Mutunke. I just turned 18 years old. I'm founder of the initiative Trees for Goals, where I use the power of football to conserve my environment.
For this Kenyan football player, his fight against climate change started with a simple idea. He'd mark every goal he scored by planting a tree.
It motivates me to work harder to score the goal, which makes me a better football player, but also betters the environment. So it's like a win-win situation.
Lesane grew up planting trees at times of celebration.
The first tree I planted, I was probably 5 years old, so I was probably the same height as a seedling. We'd really do it anytime we would get together, whether it's a birthday, an anniversary, or we just go and visit our grandparents. That's really how it came together, and it was really just a sign of celebration, a sign of happiness, joy.
What began as a solo endeavor has kicked off across Kenya.
Yeah, I think that's good enough.
Bringing a culture of conservation to a wider team of players.
Under Trees for Goals, I've been able to plant up to over 4,500 trees. And this is in the forests, this is in the schools, not a few are even at the football clubs. Today we're here at Turuma School in Children's Home. Right now we just finished up planting some indigenous trees. As you can see, these guys behind me doing a fantastic job. Slide it out like that. So they're really engaged with in both sides of the initiative, the planting of the trees, taking care of them and make sure they grow, and also the playing of football. This is exactly what I'm targeting with Trees for Goals.
Forests absorb and store heat, trapping carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, clean and filter air and water flows, and buffer against extreme weather. Their protection and revival is one of the key solutions in mitigating climate change and its effects.
I planted this one specifically.
Lesane sows with intent. He only plants indigenous trees and works with a team of young environmentalists to revive Kenya's degraded forests.
Planting a tree as a individual tree is good, but what a forest also does is that as a collective it clears our air, the problem of air pollution. It also encourages rainfall, so there's less droughts. So there's definitely, and also it does keep biodiversity for the animals within the forest and everything. So there's no human and wildlife conflict. It's definitely an amazing feeling, to come back to the forests or the places where I planted the trees and to see that they're actually growing and they're doing well. What I look forward to is, to hug the trees once they grow.
While he's inspired a new generation to take up the charge to fight climate change on Kenya's football pitches, Lesane knows a big problem requires an even bigger solution.
I aim to not only do it within schools or within the football clubs locally. I definitely want to make it a global movement in big football leagues like Premier League, La Liga, with the football clubs obviously, and also even started in World Cup. Reaching out to FIFA and telling them that, hey, this is a project that I think would be great for the sports world. I can say that, hey, this is Arsenal's forest, or this is Real Madrid's forest. That's because they know that this is the number of goals we've scored, this is the number of tournaments we've won, and this is how big our forest is. So it would work with a bit more pride. Like, we did that.
I think it ought to be an environmental law that every person within their lifetime should plant at least one tree. This individual planted 4,500 trees so far. I planted 2 trees myself about a month and a half ago, and I've been prepping one tree that was in front of my house here towards making sure that it got adequate water until it got a good root system. And then I've got another tree in the Purple Heart Memorial that sprouted up, a maple, and I'm watering it intensely every day to make sure that it takes off like it should, to be able to cause shade in the heart itself area, because I'm having trouble in it getting so hot in the summertime. It's affecting my my vegetation that I have in there. So I personally think that every person that's in a spot to where they can do it, and they're physically to do it, that it ought to be an environmental rule that you have to plant at least one tree in your lifetime.
On or off the pitch, Lesane hopes his story inspires everyone to get involved.
My message to people all over the world is that we are going to be the change. No matter how small of an impact, it makes a difference. Whether it's planting that tree, reducing your use of plastic, or just creating awareness about the issue. The time to take action is now.
Next, a global mission to protect the Amazon rainforest.
Please send more weapons.
There's this intimate relationship with nature, and that is the most beautiful part. part of living in the Amazon rainforest. More than a passion, it's a part of my upbringing. I'm an indigenous rights advocate and also a climate justice and Amazon protection advocate. Nyuka Shutimang, Elena Walinga, Shuk Sarayaku Nishka Lekto Amanda Shamuni, Vinyamanda Pachaka, Manakumusha Shamu Lektamanda.
Often called the lungs of planet Earth, the Amazon is home for countless animals, biodiversity, and more than 400 indigenous tribes. For decades, Amazonian women in Ecuador have been empowered and outspoken about protecting it.
We have this concept of the living forest, the Kausaksacha, and this means that everything in the forest is living. We have the waters, the mountains, the trees, and that is the fundamental view on our relationship to the forest and to the natural world.
The Zarayaku are a small indigenous community of about 1,500 people living in approximately 136,000 hectares of land in the Ecuadorian Amazon.
For context, my community is out in the rainforest, it's geographically isolated, and we have a very organized and articulated community. We have trust in our leaders that they will take us in the right path because we all share the same value in the community, which is protecting our community and protecting the Amazon rainforest.
Ecuador makes up only 2% of the Amazon rainforest, but it has one of the highest deforestation rates relative to its size, according to data from Global Forest Watch. In 2012, the Inter-American Human Rights Court upheld the Zarayaku tribe's rights to physical integrity, but this and other communities' way of life here are still at risk because of the overexploitation of natural resources.
It was a landmark victory for indigenous people's rights. It's not something that we chose to do, it's something we just found ourselves in these circumstances of having to protect our home. And this is something that my family has been doing, and this is just something that I'm continuing to do.
Born to a Swedish father and an indigenous mother, Helena grew up in the jungle, but when she was 16, she left the Amazon to study abroad.
Claro, cuando él
Now, at the age of 20, Helena Gualinga advocates for climate action around the world, giving a first-hand account of life in the Amazon.
One essential part of this is storytelling, and we need to start sharing these stories, our lived experiences, what goes on in territory, what people are living, what we're feeling, what we're facing. But people should also care because it does not just affect people in the Amazon. It affects everyone. It's about the survival of the entire population of this planet. I am someone that has the ability to share the messages and share the stories, and I think that is how I contribute to my community, by being this bridge builder, being this bridge between the two worlds that I've lived in.
Growing up an Amazonian woman, Gualinga says, has empowered her to lead by example and hopes her message inspires younger generations all over the globe.
It's not enough to just be a politician. You have to be a communicator, you have to be a scientist. You actually need to understand how everything works to be able to make those decisions. There is such a need for new leadership, new leaders and new kinds of leaderships. I really believe that this generation will be able to do that.
From the rainforest of South America to native lands in North America.
I believe no matter what our race or color is, how rich or poor we are, everybody deserves clean drinking water. Water is the lifeblood of Mother Earth. It's the lifeblood of everything. And that's why I find it so critical, because those teachings had like a direct impact on what I believe in and kind of how I look at this entire thing. You respect it as if it's like a human. You look at it as like it's a living thing. My name is Autumn Pelche. I'm 17 years old. I'm the Chief Water Commissioner for Anishinaabe Nation, and I'm an Indigenous rights activist and water activist.
Autumn's journey to becoming a water protector began when she was 8, unexpectedly sparked by a visit to an indigenous community in Canada a few hours from her home.
I had to go to the washroom. When I went to go wash my hands, I realized that on the right directly on the mirror it said, "Do not drink the water, not for consumption, and boil water advisory." I asked my mom, "What does this mean?" And she told me, "Well, they can't drink their water here." I said, "Why?" She says, "Because their water's polluted." And so later that night, I I go home and I researched what a boil water advisory was. I know I was only 8, but for me at the time, I kind of like thought about the fact that there was kids that were my age and younger that had no idea what it's like to just go to your tap and drink water, or be able to go wash your hands or wash yourselves. And so that kind of like impacted me in a way for me to feel like I needed to use my voice to speak up.
Her roots to the water here run deep, with ties to the Wikwamikon First Nation in Canada.
My people, the First Nations people of Canada, we believe that water is the main element of our culture. Being born, just like Anishinaabe people, Native people, it's like we're given like the automatic responsibility of having to care for the land and care for the water. As we are people of the land, we lived off the land, we lived off the animals, we lived off the water. And so we kind of always have that like connection, understanding of that. When I first started doing my work, I was like 10 years old, and at the time there was very, very little, almost no media coverage about any Indigenous issues, especially the water crisis in First Nations communities.
She spent the past 8 years speaking out about the importance of clean water to international organizations like the UN and the World Economic Forum. And in 2021, she received the Planetary Health Award from Prince Albert II's foundation.
Being awarded by people like the Prince of Monaco knows that my voice is not only being heard within Canada, it's being heard internationally. So the issues that were not talked about are now being talked about globally, internationally. It's a part of the global conversation now.
Hi, I'd like to thank everyone who is still continuing to follow my journey.
For Autumn, fighting for clean water is literally in the hands of Gen Z.
It's different with this generation because of social media. From my personal opinion, we're always on our phones, we're always on social media, different apps, and we're able to see like all these different posts, all these different things about the climate change, or just world issues in general. When I speak, my goal, it really is like younger generations, young people, because for me, the way I look at this entire thing is your voice is so much more powerful and so much more important. You wouldn't generally think like a kid or a young person would speak up about world issues or political issues that we shouldn't have to be speaking about in the first place. And so that's why it's so much more powerful, because that's how you know something is wrong. That's how you know something has to be done. We are the leaders of tomorrow. We're the people that are going to be inheriting the issues right now.
Next, the new generation comes together for a common goal.
That the average voter has any
I grew up on the island of Bali. I saw nature and the beauty of nature in the natural world every single day, whether that was the rice fields, the ocean, the beaches. And for me, being an environmental change maker is protecting and standing up for what I love. And it's knowing that I did not want to wait until I was older to start taking action, but start today, start with what I have right now. My name is Melati, founder of Bye Bye Plastic Bags and Youthopia, and my mission is to empower young people to protect our environment.
When she was 12, Melati Wisen and her sister started a youth campaign to make Bali plastic bag free.
Hello! We are from the team Bye Bye Plastic Bags! Hello semuanya! Kita dari team Bye Bye Plastic Bags!
After 7 years and a conversation with the governor, they succeeded. Bali's governor signed a law banning single-use plastics in 2019.
Today, Bye Bye Plastic Bags can be found in 60 locations all around the world, led by students in middle school and in high school or university.
How many of you see plastic on the beaches?
Now, at 21, Melati is on to her next challenge.
Throughout the journey of Bye Bye Plastic Bags, I found myself in other students' classrooms, spending more time in other students' classrooms than in my own classroom.
So here is a storyteller who likes to tell stories.
And what I realized is that I always got one question no matter where I was in the world, whether that was New York, Tokyo, or here in Indonesia. And that question was always, Melati, how can I do what you do?
Why don't you do it?
We are growing up in a world where when we turn on the television or listen to the radio or swipe and scroll through our social media, every other post, every other story is about the world that we are living in. The world where every living thing is slowly starting to die. This is our reality. And especially here in the global south, in a country like Indonesia, we are already experiencing it. It isn't just limited to a news story every now and then. We see the floods, we see the fires, we hear the stories of people being displaced and becoming climate refugees. And then we start to think, one day it could be us. What can we do to change that? So that's where Youthopia comes in. We are a learning platform where young people can learn from each other how to create change.
Youthopia runs 153 youth workshops and programs for young change makers. They're tackling the climate crisis through education.
I graduated high school a year early to focus full-time on building Youthopia to become the #1 go-to learning platform for young people to learn how to create change. This booklet is an educational tool.
Melody works with 200 young change makers around the world. Together, they've educated more than 4,500 students with their programs.
Here we are again at another school. There's the team. They're preparing, working very, very hard. The screen is all set up there. And the reason why we focus on schools is because we believe in the power and that the change starts in the classroom. So that's why we focus all the time with students, young people in the classrooms, hoping to mobilize and make change there. We're done here in Jakarta, and we're about to head back to Bali. As you can see, our luggage. And we're landing, we go to sleep, and then we go straight into screenings at schools in Bali. So stay tuned, because there is so much more to do.
She has spoken all over the world, from the World Economic Forum stage in Switzerland to the United Nations headquarters in New York City.
I think back that the reason why I'm building Youthopia is for 12-year-old Melati. Back when I started, I wish a platform like Youthopia existed, because how cool would it have been to call changemakers around the world and say, hey, I have this idea, what do you think about it?
Meladi's classmates, family and friends work with her to effect change. And when they're not working with other young people, they're trying to convince companies to adopt sustainable business models.
Same as the question students are asking, where and how do I get started? CEOs are asking the same question. So what we've done there is try and build the bridge, because we know, same, first lesson, we cannot do it on our own.
Meladi hopes her story will empower young people around the world to join in on her mission.
To all of you young people who are watching this, just go for it. Don't wait until you are older to start creating change. Remember, us kids may only be 25% of the world's population, but we are 100% of the future, and that future starts today, and it starts with you.
Amen. Amen.
Tech for space.
There's a space environmentalist living inside of everybody.
Tech for clean air.
Because what we're talking about here is a global problem.
Tech for quiet.
We are using some AI technologies to mitigate intruding costs.
This is Tech for Good.
Join me as I meet the minds behind the technologies that could help in the battle against invisible pollution.
Tech for Good, Saturday on CNN, in association with Samsung.
I'm Mindy Kincaid in Atlanta, and this is CNN.
They claim that the UN had temperatures this week that broke all-time highs. Unbelievable with how that our world is reeking, and so many people still to this day aren't paying attention to what's happening to our planet.
During World War II, it was a kind of watch, what's called a Beobachtungs, an observation watch, and it was designed for navigation in the cockpit. So the modern Big Pilot's watch was not a reissue, not an identical reissue to the original. It had a new mechanism, but it was sort of an expression of the connection between IWC and its history, as a maker of aviation watches, it's a watch that really is all about legibility and precision in the air. As a navigation instrument, there's simply no room for error. And it remains today one of the icons of modern watch design and one of the watches that helped to really kickstart the big watch craze of the early 2000s.
I'm Wolf Blitzer. This is CNN.
Your daytime lineup, The Lead with Jake Tapper, and The Global Brief with Bianca Nobilo. There's no better way to bring politics and breaking news into context.
Welcome to African Voices. I'm Ari Topo. Reduce, reuse, and recycle. It's a simple concept one change maker from Ghana wants everyone in his country to follow. This week, we'll see the innovative ways he's inspiring others to repurpose plastic waste.
Environmental problems are one of the biggest problems we have in the world. For me, I always say that the issue of pollution is not really an issue of plastics, it's an issue of behavior. The aim is to powerfully influence people's behavior in a way that can change their behavior. And art, for me, is the most powerful tool to achieve that. I create value from waste, and I empower women and the youth with it. My name is Makafui Awuku. I'm the founder and CEO of Macintosh Africa, and I am a change maker.
Makafui Awuku wants to leave the world a better place than he found it.
I'll define myself as a problem solver. I grew up in Keta, where my mom worked as a nurse. We were taught to take care of the environment, clean up our environment, take care of the plants, take care of the animals. So I've always been thinking of how I can make my own environment better than the way it is.
Frustrated by the plastic pollution in his country, the innovator came up with a creative way to repurpose the material that quickly caught people's attention.
Normally, I'll go on social media to go and rant about how our leaders and our politicians are not doing enough to fix the problem. But then I realized that the future I want, I am the only one who can create that future. So I said, how about if I show them how they are supposed to be tackling and solving the problem? So I figured I could make a Christmas tree from plastic waste. I did some videos and I posted it on social media, and it went viral. People loved the idea. People started calling me, can we bring you bottles? You know, so I started thinking, okay, what else can I do from plastic?
This project was the catalyst for Macintosh Africa, a social enterprise Makafui founded in 2017. The company hosts community and beach cleanups and offers a youth mentorship program.
But then I have a huge volunteer group around the project, about 200 volunteers, with about 70% of them being women.
So far, they've collected more than 200,000 plastic bottles from homes, offices, and the streets of Accra to transform into reusable items.
So these are plastic waste receptacles we are building. These are like big, huge bottles that we build, and the aim of it is to use it to collect smaller bottles. We wanted to create a fun ways in which people can handle plastic waste responsibly. One of the lessons I've learned is it's easier when people can connect with installations on their own than when you have to explain it to them. And that's actually why I choose the designs I choose. This plastic waste is from a mining site in the Ashanti region of Ghana. So one of the things we've been trying to do is to encourage companies to handle plastic waste more responsibly. So this is 217 kilograms of waste that we received over the weekend. This was consumed over the last 2 to 3 weeks at the company. And what do we do with it? We use it to do Christmas trees, we use it to make artwork, we crush them, it is melted, it is turned into plastic lumber that they use to make benches. So what I have here in my hand is a 2x6 plastic lumber. This is not wood. Even though it looks like wood, it's not wood. This is made from plastic waste recovered from the streets of Accra that have been crushed and have been extruded into wood-like material. And this can be used basically to produce anything that you can use wood for.
McAfee's installations can be seen throughout the city. Today, we saw one of his latest creations.
So we are the Macintosh bus shelter. It's the first ever bus shelter built on the continent of Africa, made from all kinds of recycled materials. I had the idea to build this in 2020, and in January 2022, we finally built it and commissioned it in February. The entire structure is built from 3,000 kilograms or 3 tons of plastic waste. And in addition to that, there's some 3D printing and modeling of some of the parts and the designs of the shelter to explain sustainable environmental management through 3D icons. It can fit up to 60 people, and we're hoping that we can build hundreds of these around the city of Accra.
While McAfee has ambitious goals, the entrepreneur says there are still several hurdles in his way.
One of the challenges is the lack of responsibility on the part of people, not just individuals, but even government. Finding funding is also a big problem. If we want to protect the environment, then we need to invest more on the innovation side and support startups that are creating sustainable solutions. It's important for us to be able to ask ourselves each time, how do we reduce the single-use plastics in the project? Can we use reusable plastics? Can we avoid the use of plastic entirely? We need to always have a sustainability conversation about the project and their impact on the environment. We don't need to apply force on it.
Next, we see how McAfee is teaching the next generation how to upcycle.
That's pretty cool. You know, whenever I was up in Chicago in 2010, whenever I was ordered to go up to Dr. Dana's office and be studied for about 6 months, they had taken on a new concept in Chicago pertaining to the high-rises in planting gardens on top of these buildings. And at the time, I think I was on about a 35-story, maybe a 40-story building. And it was a tall enough building that you could look down and see some of the other buildings that wasn't quite as tall. Of course, there was a whole lot of buildings that was taller than what we was. But you could see where the concept of people living in high-rises that was doing just exactly that. They was planting gardens on top of these buildings that they claim was helping to eliminate some of the city heat with all the concrete and asphalt and the cars, and they claimed that it had a substantial benefit towards the air quality as far as producing the air that we need to breathe and taking away some of the carbons. Like I said, I think it should be an environmental law that everybody that has ever been born should take part in planting at least one tree in their life. Probably in total, I probably planted maybe, I'm going to say probably 10, 12 trees in my lifetime that I have seen come up and get like 20 times taller than myself, and then something happened, either bugs or lightning struck it, or maybe it was a need for that particular tree. But yeah, I've planted a few trees in my life, and I wish that I'd planted more trees. I really do.
How is pollution our waters?
But there's one message in particular the environmental activist wants listeners to take to heart.
The earth is the heartbeat of life. Beat plastic pollution. Make the resolution. I'm trying to use my poetry to change society. Being able to do poetry is another outlet for me to actually influence people's behavior in the right direction. It's time to wake up. It's time to stand up to ourselves.
While he writes powerful prose, McAfee believes actions speak louder than words.
We have failed as a world where there's a lot of talk, but then there's not a lot of demonstration.
He wants everyone to follow his 4 R's: refuse, reuse, repurpose, and recycle. A concept he says should be taught from a young age.
Kids pick up habits when they are younger. And whatever we want to teach them, whatever we want them to learn, we need to teach them early enough. My challenge over the years has been that we teach environmental sustainability in the classroom. People can acquire the knowledge and never use it. It's important that we let them practice it. I love to teach. I love to transfer some of the knowledge I've acquired over the years. So we are here at St. John the Evangelist Catholic Church, where we are working with a group of kids to do upcycled items from plastic waste. So we're going to learn how to make lotion containers from bottle tops. You don't need to apply force on this. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Being able to work with plastic waste, be able to develop innovative skills and creative skills which they can transfer to solve other problems is very critical. So for me, that's why I've chosen this approach, and it's proven to work. It's proven to be very effective in transferring knowledge to kids.
The entrepreneur is proving there are endless opportunities to transform plastic waste into beautiful creations.
This is called footprints in the sun, because the only thing you need to leave at the beach when you go to the beach is your footprint, not plastic waste, not waste flip-flops. These are all waste flip-flops. And these have all been left in the environment.
Today, we saw how his company, Macintosh Africa, creates its product line.
This is where we turn the plastic sheets into various fashion items. We have backpacks, we have purses, we have pouches, we have mats, we have ladies' bags, and we create all this from plastic waste. We are the shoemaking shop where we make the footwear from the plastic sheets that we make. So we prepare the sheets by having a liner inside so that it's comfortable on the feet. And then we have specific designs that we make. So the process is we cut the shapes. So we draw out the shapes on the sole.
McAfee wants others to see the beauty in the waste, and he hopes his work will inspire young entrepreneurs to pursue their own innovations to make the world a better place.
I feel life is about experiences, and when we leave this world one day, the only thing that we will leave behind is the experiences we've shared with others. So my innovations, my knowledge, my painful experiences, what I've learned through life, I would love to share that more often. I've had an exciting journey through art, through innovation, through trying to solve a national and a global problem. Sometimes you are not able to solve all the problems, but you can motivate and encourage other people to solve the ones that you can't. My advice for young entrepreneurs: the entrepreneurial journey is a tough and difficult one. But if you've chosen to go on this journey, you have to go all the way. It will be difficult, it will be frustrating, but then it's worthwhile when you actually figure it out. So whatever journey you are on, whatever problem you are trying to solve, don't be discouraged, don't give up.
Thank you for listening. We hope that you have gotten something out of this program today. Coming from streamlining from the Windmill Ministries missions here at 291 Thompson Road, Sharon, Tennessee, zip code 38255. The bottom line is this: none of us can do enough for Mother Nature in all these departments towards planting trees and getting plastic that's basically poisoning our planet, and to prevent people from becoming environmental refugees. because I guarantee you there's a lot of people, though they may rebuild eventually in the little town of Waverly, Tennessee, and Middle Tennessee in Humphreys County, because of the 17 inches of rain that fell in a very, very short period of time that caused massive flooding that killed over 20 people and destroyed about a third of their town. But I guarantee you, because of that, it has driven a great deal of people out of that area, so they have become environmental refugees. They've had to move. And it doesn't matter if it's a flood, a fire, a hurricane, a tornado, an earthquake. These are all environmental refugees. And I just pray and hope that the environmental refugees will not increase but decrease as the world wakes up to the fact that we are leaving a environmental footprint, and no matter who we are or what we do, small or great, to some extent on this planet. Just the other day, I was talking to a farmer about how that the droughts in this area had affected their crops pertaining to corn. And they said that they went through one of their fields and went through row after row after row after row. And not in one row did they find not one kernel on none of the ears of corn that had already started. And he also made a comment that just one of their tractors that they was using this year was burning approximately somewhere between $1,100 to $1,500 worth of fuel a day just to be able to put in their crop. And of course, if it costs that much to put in the crop, it's going to cost that much to get that grain out of the crop at the end of the year, just to give people a little bit of insight or idea towards the cost involved in farming. We must, if we're going to be a sustainable earth, we must wake up to these factors that we are now facing on a day-to-day, everyday level, either north of the equator or south of the equator, depending upon what time of the year that it is. We must wake up and start embracing the truth so that we can make changes if there's going to be a futuristic future for our children and our children's children. We want to thank you for watching. Good luck to each and every one of us. And may God bless America. May God bless America, our American troops. And good luck to each and every one of us. Shalom.